If you have seen my previous videos, it's pretty obvious that from the last few days I am traveling a lot. Me and my husband both like history. Like, even when we got married, initially we traveled to a lot of historical places. So when I told my husband the story that I want to do this entire history of Karnataka and cover this entire lineage, he was more than happy to accompany me. And he is a very big history enthusiast himself. Honestly, he's such a big enthusiast that whenever I see a museum, I sort of distract him so that his gaze goes somewhere else and he doesn't see the museum. In fact, he does. I know that for a good 5 hours, 6 hours, or if it happens to be something like Salarjung Museum in Hyderabad, maybe 2 days. So I really avoid his gaze from museum, and he's that kind of an enthusiast. So right now we are at a place which is called as Sangam in Srirangpatna. It's a very interesting story that we want to share with you. And this story I have requested my husband to narrate because I think he's going to do a very good job. So I'll hand over the mic to him.
Hi folks, I'm Ranjit Shankar. I'm the husband of Ashwini HS, who basically runs this YouTube channel. And obviously so far Ashwini has given you a good overview of the main political intrigue surrounding the Wadiyar kingdom, and the possible the foundations and the fundamental reasons as to how the Wadiyar empire emerged in South India in the first place. So obviously I'm not going to repeat all those things, and I'm going to cut straight to the chase here. So today here we are to really cover and unravel the glory of the king among kings, the emperor at large of a kingdom which has been less celebrated in our history, the Wadiyar kingdom. And this king is no other than Ranadira Kantirava, the man who was divinely ordained by Lord Chamundeshwari herself to really protect this holy land, what we call as the southern India. And what we truly see here is a hero emerging at a time when the Wadiyars were actually struggling to find a successor in their kingdom. And what he has actually achieved, most people tend to underestimate for generations to come. But today I'm here to tell his story in a way which hasn't been told before. So let's get started. Let us first understand the political situation of the larger India around about the 1600s. So in the 1600s you had the Mughal Empire in the north, which was emerging in a big way under Akbar, Jahangir, and the Mughals were actually consolidating their power across large swaths of northern India. Then if you see the southern part of India, you had the Bahmanis on the one hand, who were looming large over the Bijapur kingdom, and on the other hand the Vijayanagara kingdom was already in its decline, because most of the the ruling families were wiped out in the last battle at Rakasatangadi, and post which the last kingdom of the Vijayanagara empire was basically in its last days. Coupled with this, you had the Mysore kingdom of the Wadiyars, who were holding fort strongly in the southern part of India, in this belt, in the Mysore belt. And here we are in Srirangpatna at the confluence of three rivers, Hemavati, Kaveri, and so this is a beautiful setting to really tell the story of what really happened with Ranadira Kantirava, because the Bijapur kingdom at that time under Muhammad Adil Shah had decided to conquer most of southern India, and the only kingdom he had trouble conquering was the kingdom of Mysore. And in fact the Bahmans had actually underestimated the power of the Mysore kings, because they thought they would actually have a walk in the park, a cakewalk as it were, to really walk over the opponent without any opposition. And in fact so the Bijapur Sultan sent his most accomplished general Ranadullah Khan to really capture large swaths of Mysore kingdom that it was at that time. And what we really see happening is that Ranadullah Khan, remember this, he was a very accomplished general himself. He had conquered much of southern India, defeated most of the kingdoms, local factions and chieftains, had enormous military success, and he was quite confident of winning this battle. But he just did not know what was in store for him, because what actually happens, and I want you to pan across the river for a bit and really understand. On this side you have the army of Ranadira Kantirava, because he has got intelligence and information that on the other side of the river you have Ranadullah Khan and the Bijapur Bahmani, the entourage, and look at the size of the army. We are talking about 50,000 horses, 4 lakh foot soldiers, and about 100 elephants on the other side of the river. They are coming in like the hordes. They are falling on this kingdom like nobody else has, and they are very confident of taking over this, and they are just across the river. And the only thing stopping them was the river itself. And this is where the genius, the military genius of Ranadira Kantirava comes into play, because what actually happens after this is the only way the Bahmans could take over Mysore is to actually hit the fort hard. So they actually laid siege to the Srirangpatna fort, the then fort that was constructed by the Wadiyars. Remember, this has nothing to do with Tipu Sultan, so I don't want people to get confused. In the 1600s, this fort was actually constructed by the Wadiyars, and this was the same fort which was besieged by Ranadullah Khan on the other side of the river. And the typical tactics, the military strategy of most kingdoms across the world at that time is, when you besiege a fort, you're going to lay explosives and you're going to blow up the fort. When you blow up the fort at the foundations, and typically what they do is they do a little bit of tunneling and they blow up the fort at the foundation, and that opens up a huge crack or a huge gap in the fort, allowing the enemy troops to then get in with ease. And once the enemy troops are inside the ramparts of the fort, it is pretty much easy pickings for any enemy army to then decimate and demolish. So Ranadira Kantirava, the great king he understood military strategy very well. He understood that an attack would be forthcoming from the Bahmans to really blow up the foundations of the fort, and he was just waiting for the right moment when this happened. And this is the time Ranadira Kantirava fell upon the enemy army like a lion among kings, and the enemy army did not know what hit them, because what followed later is absolute massacre. And this time it was not the massacre of the Mysorean king, but it was actually the massacre of Ranadullah Khan's army, the standing army that he had, the huge forces that he had brought to bear on this land. And it was just unbelievable, because Ranadullah Khan did not expect such intelligence and such chivalry being displayed, such courage being displayed by our dear king Ranadira Kantirava, who fell upon the enemy forces and forced. The final outcome of this battle was Ranadullah Khan was forced to sign a treaty basis which all land to the north of the Kaveri river, as we can see here, would then belong to the Bijapur kingdom, while the land on this side, the side on which we are sitting, would then belong to the Mysorean kingdom, the Wadiyar kingdom. So this was the truce that was actually reached between the two kingdoms. But unbeknownst to Ranadira Kantirava, and these are tactics which have been employed by kings of those times, was that there was a little bit of treachery involved here, because Ranadullah Khan actually did not keep up his word of the bargain. He did not have a ceasefire. He instead sent a contingent of his army to besiege the Mysore fort, where actually Ranadira Kantirava had used it as a base for his operations. He besieged the Mysore fort, and while Ranadira Kantirava thought that the war was over and he could now keep his kingdom, but what happens later is something that is absolutely supernatural, divine and miraculous, because this is the kind of emotions that an Indian like me will have to experience when you actually listen to a story like this. Because Ranadira Kantirava finally gets some information that his Mysore fort has been attacked, and he actually rushes back to really salvage some part of the fort and try to take the fort back. But to his utter surprise, he finds the surroundings pretty calm and he finds the fort pretty much intact, but he sees a few dead soldiers here and there in his Mysore fort, and he goes, what really happened? And he asks his own security guard who was standing by the fort to really tell him what actually transpired in the absence of Ranadira Kantirava. And this is what the security guard had to say. He said, this is what happened. The enemies fell upon the Mysore fort, and there were a lot of soldiers on the Wadiyar side who actually died during this operation. But what actually happened was that on the top of the very fort, there were a group of women who were standing like the goddess Kali Devi herself. And the soldiers actually thought that they were women probably who belonged to the royal entourage itself. But much to their surprise, they actually had bloodshot eyes and they did not look like ordinary mortals themselves. And what follows is a rampage, because these mystical women standing on top of the fort actually ransacked the army who had come, scared them away so much that they began to believe that it was the devil, who was the shaitan, what they call, who was actually standing on top of the fort and defending the fort, and they ran for their lives. And once Ranadira Kantirava actually realized what had happened, he obviously understood that Lord Chamundeshwari herself had actually taken upon this city to really protect it from its enemies. And this is obviously a very proud moment for any Indian, because those were the days, you really have to imagine it in your head, where kingdoms were constantly at war and it was not easy to retain territory. And it just goes to show that if Lord Chamundeshwari made an intervention, it's only because she actually saw potential in this land, and this land has been hallowed by a lot of spirituality and great kings and individuals in the past, and this was not a land that was about to fall in the hands of the Bahmani Empire. And thereafter, obviously, the resulting outcome of this exchange and ordeal was really, the truce had to come into effect now formally, because Ranadullah Khan could not play his games anymore, and he had to accept the terms and conditions specified, which basically meant a humiliating defeat for the Bahmani kingdom. So this is one of the proud moments in Indian history. I think some recently, I think Wadiyars have come under a lot of criticism for being a little passive, especially with the British, but these kind of stories really go to demonstrate that the kind of military strategy, acumen, intelligence and courage that Wadiyar kings brought to bear. So I think the final outcome of this battle really served to establish that Mysore was not one of those small kingdoms anymore who just paid tribute to a larger empire. They were here to stay, and Ranadira Kantirava had made a strong statement to his enemies that he could not be taken lightly, and the kingdom of Mysore would only rise in stature from here on as the history unravels, as we continue this storyline in the subsequent videos. So if you haven't subscribed already, please like, comment, share and subscribe to the videos, and please do share this wonderful story with your friends on Facebook, because this is a story which is seldom not told.